history that lives on, long after the regime that created it has perished. Once a lethal weapon of war, like a wasp, its bright markings served warning to all sharing the skies that this was a machine of which to beware. Of the many aircraft that fought the aerial battles of the Second World War, this was arguably the most legendary, the Messerschmitt Bf-109. Without question, it was the most famous Luftwaffe plane ever to take flight. It's been estimated that a staggering 35,000 109s were built, making it the most numerous fighter aircraft in history. Many say it was the best fighter of the war. All admit that it was the very cornerstone of Nazi air power. And yet, despite these incredible numbers, very few 109s survive today. In fact, only one airworthy German-built 109 remains. It's a reminder of a bygone age, an age of unprecedented turmoil, loss, and bravery. Despite its German markings, this Messerschmitt was actually built by the Spanish, who still had 109s in production over 10 years after Germany's defeat. As close to timeless as any fighter can become, the 109 served Spain well into the 1960s. Still evident are the sleek, purposeful, and menacing lines, once so familiar in the skies of a cowering Europe. Years ago, they seemed invincible. Manned by the ablest young men of Germany, they flew to victory time and again. But by war's end, one exhausted Luftwaffe pilot would say, "Every time I close the canopy, I feel that I'm closing the lid of my own coffin." These armorers and mechanics are readying a pilot's aircraft for yet another mission. With 3 cannon and 2 machine guns, the 109 was a formidable weapon. Unlike Allied airmen, Luftwaffe pilots had no rotation system during the Second World War, which is why they were able to chalk up so many kills, and why so few survived. Although a tremendous camaraderie existed between them, in the air, each man was terribly alone. Fighter pilots first surfaced as a breed apart during World War I. The successes enjoyed so briefly by immortals such as Oswald Boelcke and Manfred von Richthofen, the latter perhaps the most famous fighter pilot in air combat history, a legendary. The tenacious von Richthofen, whose 80 kills outnumbered any ace of the war, became, like many dashing fighter pilots of the period, an internationally recognized hero. Their steeds, usually biplanes or triplanes, were primitive, construction was crude, weapons unpredictable. Powered by an Oberursel rotary engine and lubricated with castor oil, von Richthofen's favorite mount was the Fokker DR-1 triplane. Von Richthofen's famed flying circus, consisting of some of the most skilled fighter pilots of the war, was an aerial killing machine without precedent. But their glory was very fleeting. On the average, the life expectancy for a fighter pilot was just 6 weeks. Little consideration was given to the pilot's comfort or safety. Parachutes were frowned upon as unmanly and bad for morale. Pre-flighting the machines was circumspect. In general, pilots trusted to fate and luck to bring them back alive. Oswald Bölker, who taught von Richthofen the art of aerial combat, was killed before his 26th birthday. Von Richthofen, second from the right, had been picked by Bölker as one of the first members of the flying circus. On September 17, 1916, the Red Baron, as he was soon to be known, scored his first victory when he sent a British pilot down in flames. Repeatedly decorated, Richthofen was later killed over British trenches and buried by enemy troops with full military honors. Among Bölker's students was another young ace who would go on to become the commander of Hitler's Luftwaffe. The cherubic pilot's name was Hermann Goering. Upon inheriting von Richthofen's command of the flying circus, he attempted to alter the combat philosophies laid down by Bölker. This did not endear him to the veteran pilots in the unit. However, like von Richthofen, he was awarded the Blue Max. Credited with 22 kills, Goering survived the war, and during the 1920s moved into Germany's explosive political arena. Within a decade, he would ascend to a position of incredible power as part of the newly formed National Socialist regime under Adolf Hitler. During the First World War, Bölker's concept of the Jaster, or Aerial Pursuit Squadron, was wholeheartedly put to use by a determined but outnumbered German Imperial Air Force. This Jaster of Fokker D-7s, seen in 1918, represented the most advanced technology of the era. At the end of World War I, what remained of German society faced a grim and uncertain future. With its military forces decimated and its physical and political infrastructure in ruins, the German people were left with few options and little hope. But even greater disaster awaited them. Under the Treaty of Versailles, the once mighty German Wehrmacht was restricted to 100,000 men. The Prussian commanders interpreted this to mean 100,000 officers. In turn, a large clandestine army of irregulars emerged, and later also the weaponry needed to equip them. However, Germany's feeble democracy, the Weimar Republic, couldn't resuscitate the nation's anemic economy. Soon, a desperate populace fell eagerly into the hands of right-wing zealots.
We will return in a moment.
Germany military aircraft. But over time, civil aviation slowly re-emerged, and several small outfits came together to form the national airline Lufthansa. By 1927, Lufthansa was looking for a new passenger plane, and the Bavarian Aircraft Works, whose design team was headed by Willy Messerschmitt, submitted this 10-seater design, the Model 20. The first Model 20 crashed. Lufthansa demanded the return of its investment, driving the Bavarian company into financial ruin. For designer Willy Messerschmitt, this debacle created an opportunity. He started his own aviation company soon afterwards, but not before engaging in a heated argument with the Lufthansa director responsible for the M20's cancellation. That man was Erhard Milch, a pragmatic bureaucrat with a reputation for getting things done. Once he and Messerschmitt fought, the seeds were sown for a bitter feud that would last for decades. The M20's failure and the limitations imposed on military aviation at Versailles channeled Messerschmitt's energies towards smaller civilian planes. This is the M21, notable for its swing wing function for storage. It was just one of the many novel ideas that earned Messerschmitt a reputation for innovative design. By 1932, the Nazi Party had gained control of the German Reichstag, and Hitler immediately took up the task of appointing party members, or at least those very sympathetic to the cause, to positions of power throughout the fabric of government. Behind his immediate colleagues lay an intricate network of well-chosen followers, each placed in a key position vital to creating the new Reich. One of those men was Erhard Milch. Remarkably,